Hey guys, just a quick update for 5.2. These are the patch notes as of recently. Now, prep has been changed to be level 68. Now, if you look in the current tree, basically what this means is they're making prep a spell that all specs get no matter what you do. Now, instead of being in the tree here, they're replacing it with another spell. And also changes to prep, it will no longer affect Cloak of Shadows. However, they are changing Cloak of Shadows on top of that. Instead, Cloak of Shadows will be a 1 minute cooldown instead of 2 minutes. So they're halving the cooldown of Cloak of Shadows and giving us prep to all specs. Now they're replacing prep in the tree with something called Cloak and Dagger, which I'll link right here. Basically, Cloak and Dagger is an internal shadow step to any garrote, cheap shot, and ambush you have. And it's got a 30-yard range without a cooldown. So it shadow steps the target every time you use these abilities, which would be very, very overpowered for sub, because it means you no longer need shadow step, and it means if you have lag, you don't have to worry about lag. And it basically means you can shadow step garrote one target, shadow step kidney. You can basically use garrote on one target, and it'll shadow step to them, and then you go back to your main target, and then you can use cheap shot on them. So you can basically use this in a way that you have multiple shadow steps just by using an ability on someone. So that's how that works. Next, they're removing versatility. Versatility was the PvE ability that gave your redirect no cooldown. They're changing this for something called Marked for Death. Marked for Death instantly gives you 5 combo points on your current target, and it resets if you kill that target. And it also has a 1 minute cooldown. So for PvE this would be a good thing to get, and for PvP in general you might be able to make certain things work with it. Of course, Shriek and Toss is being changed as well. Now for Shriek and Toss they're going to change it so that it only applies your lethal poison instead of both poisons. So you can't get your normal poison to proc from this, your non-lethal one, it only applies your lethal damaging poison. However, they are changing the way Shriek and Toss works, in that you gain 10 seconds of ranged auto attacks, 75% of your normal auto attacks at range, for if the target is over 10 yards away. Now, you may consider this as a bit of a nerf, but if you think about it, if the target's over 10 yards away and you have ranged auto attacks, you can combine that with Shadow Blades and Slice and Dice. So now your Shadow Blades is a ranged ability. So you have a very increased damaging ranged ability with Shadow Blades. So if you pop your Trinket and Shadow Blades at the same time while Shriek and Tossing, you can end up pretty much killing someone with that as combat. Because as combat you have very slow weapons, and I know, if you pop Adrenaline Rush at the same time, you're pretty much going to kill someone just by that. So that's the theory behind that anyway. Now, they're also changing Deadly Throw, which is very good for anyone who wants to play combat. Deadly Throw will now interrupt targets at 3, 4, and 5 combo points. And at 3 combo points, it's a 4-second interrupt. At 4 combo points, it's a 5-second, and at 5 combo points, it's a 6-second. Now, when I say interrupt, I mean it silences them and stops them from casting any spell in that pool that you interrupted for the respective amount of seconds based on the combo points. So basically, it means your Deadly Throw can interrupt at 3 combo points now for a 4-second lockout. Now, Blind has been changed, unfortunately. They changed it to a 2-minute cooldown instead of 1.5 minutes, which is a really, really lame thing to do. But they're giving us something to Smoke Bomb to make it more reliable. Smoke Bomb is now going to reduce our damage taken by any friendly target players inside Smoke Bomb by 20%, including the Rogue. So Smoke Bomb is more defensive than it was before. Personally, I use the Smoke Bomb glyph in my combat spec, so that's going to help me a lot, and it makes Smoke Bomb 7 seconds of 20% reduced damage on top of everything else, so it gives it a bit more utility, I guess. Now, Nerve Strike, they're changing Nerve Strike so that it reduces the healing of the target by 10% on top of its original effects, so that might be something to consider. Get someone inside a cheap shot, go to your main target to kill them, and by the time the person's out of that cheap shot, they have 10% reduced healing. Now, from what I've seen, I'm pretty sure it stacks with Wounding Poison, which would be another 25%. and it will also stack with your battle fatigue for another 15%, so you got 35% plus you got about 50% reduced healing if you get Nerve Strike. What else is there? Shadow Focus. They're nerfing it, which is a real pity because I use it. It will reduce the energy cost of abilities while stealth by 75% instead of 100%. So it's still handy if you want to use it, just not as good as it was before. I'm still going to be using it though, because it's handy. A few other changes, set bonuses for PvP for Rogue. The 4 set will now give you 30 energy instead of just 10 energy. So the 2 set was originally that, but they're making it the 4 set now. So the 4 set gives you 30 energy, and the 2 set's going to give you the poison buff, where any non-lethal gives you crippling. Changes to specs. Combat specifically gets a 5% attack power buff on top of our normal combat stuff. Now as combat you get this passive increase to your energy regen by 20%, attack power by 25%. They're changing the attack power buff there to 30%, so we'll have about probably 2k extra attack power if you're in full gear after the patch hits. And also they're nerfing Blade Flurry, unfortunately. Blade Flurry is now going to hit 4 targets for 40% of the original damage, instead of just 2 targets for 100%. And it will still reduce your energy regen on top of that. So PvE buff, PvP nerf. Yeah, that's really gay. And for sub, Sanctuary Vein. They are now going to increase it to 20% increased damage when the target's bled, instead of 14%. So it's a 6% increase in damage, no, a 4% increase in damage, sorry. For anyone playing sub, if the target's bled. Hey guys, a little thing I forgot to mention in the video. Burst of Speed's being changed. Not many people use it, I know, but I love it, and it's pretty good for combat. Currently what Burst of Speed does in live is it breaks rooting effects on a 50 energy cost, instant cast, no cooldown. It gives you 70% increased movement speed, breaks any movement impairing effects, including snares and roots, and makes you immune to their reapplication for 4 seconds. Now, seeing as I'm combat, I don't worry about the energy cost because I get 20% increased regen on my energy, and I have Adrenaline Rush, which gives me pretty much infinite energy. Now, what they're doing to it to nerf it is they're buffing it and nerfing it. Now they're making it so it only costs 30 energy so other specs can use it, and they're also making it so you can use it in stealth. And they're also making it so that when it breaks a rooting or snare effect, when it breaks a snare effect, not a rooting effect, when it breaks a snare effect, it also gives you the speed buff on top of that, because right now it's a bit buggy. So they're fixing it, and they're making it better. However, they're nerfing it so that it does not longer break roots. So you can't get out Frost Novas with this anymore, which is a real pity, because it used to be really good for doing that. So basically you can't get out of roots now as a rogue unless you want to vanish or claws. So that's a really gay nerf. Okay, there's a few more things that I have to discuss. Firstly, transmogs to weapons. They're going to make it in 5.2 so that you can transmog certain kinds of weapons to other kinds of weapons. Now, they both still have to be, if you transmog your one-hander, it has to be a one-hander. If you transmog your two-hander, it has to be a two-hander. But they're going to make it so that you can transmog a one-handed sword into a one-handed axe, a one-handed dagger into a one-handed sword, etc., etc. So you basically have more options in terms of transmog. You don't have to get a certain kind of weapon to make it look cool, pretty much. The second change, another change they're going to do is something to PvP. Now, firstly, the rating requirements for all the gears, like the 2200 gear and the elite gear, is all going to be removed. You need to earn a certain amount of conquest points in the season to get the weapons, which is 7500 conquest points, and then you need 27.5k conquest points in order to unlock the T2 elite gear for the season. Now, this gear will not require a certain rating, but still the higher up teams with higher ratings will still earn more points, so they'll in the end still get the elite gear before anyone else. But the whole purpose of this is so the players who can't reach 2.2k even by the end of the season will still have decent gear because they've played all season. They'll still have the T2 weapons because they've put in the time and the effort to get the rating every week to get the weapons. Now, in 5.3, they're not going to release a new arena season, they've announced. What they're going to do instead is they're going to make it so the arena gear gets converted into honor. So by the end of the season, as long as you've earned 27k arena points by the end of the season in 5.3, they're going to make it so that you can buy the latest arena set through Honor. So that way, people can, instead of releasing a new season, people can still just gear up, and you can still spend your conquest points on either the elite gear or even to upgrade your gear to a higher item level through those reforging type guys. Now, according to the PvP system that they have on the dev blog, which I'll link in the description below, the way they explained it is lots of players wanted a decay rate, so that if someone sits in a 2700 team all season, that the points decay. But Blizzard didn't want to make such a negative, didn't want to implement such a negative thing on the game. So instead they came up with this system called progression, I think it's called, or whatever. It's like, say there's one team that's sitting at 2500, but they're constantly playing games, and there's another team sitting at 2700, but they're just sitting there and they're not playing any games at all until the end of the season. Now the 2500 team, because they're playing games constantly, they can easily go up by 300 rating. Now the way this works is, if you're constantly playing games in your team, you'll gain rating quicker than someone who's just sitting in the team and then halfway through the season start playing again. So for a team that's constantly playing, your points will rise quicker than another team that just starts playing after a few weeks of not playing in the team, if that makes sense. So they want more of a fluid thing, whereby they reward players that play a lot, and the players who just get the rating and then sit in the team don't get as much benefits, and they don't progress as far as someone else who is constantly playing. As for ETA, when the patch is going to hit, guys, they said early March it should be released. At the soonest, it will be early March. So that's probably like 2 weeks away, maybe 2.5 weeks away, guys, at the earliest. And the arena season is going to end a week before the patch comes out, so you maybe have 2 weeks left of arena. So if you have anything that you want to get it now. All the arena gear will be converted into honor gear. The weapons will require a certain amount of honor earned in that season to be able to unlock and buy the weapons through honor. And also the conquest points you saved up will be converted into honor points. So just on that note, guys, get whatever you want now. In terms of gearing up and stuff, don't worry too much about it, because all the gear will be converted to honor once the new season hits. So yeah.